in GBV in the workplace. For that, because we're going to be awarding in the Innovation Challenge and respond to GBV. Very many concerns around GBV at the work. To end this in their workplace, they are duly recognized. And today, we are going to be doing exactly that. The Private Sector Foundation Uganda advised dialogue on promoting gender assessments made to ensure that women operate safely. Without wasting much time, ladies and gentlemen, Sechitoleko Victoria, round of applause, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, led by the head of corporation, the UNDP, led by UNDP resident representative. You can't? Can you hear me now? The UNDP led trees, but specifically the means of gender. Our colleagues in the mining sector. First of all, when right now, forget everything you know about me and child of a wife batterer. In the region I come from, in order to become it's a boy and a girl. The girl was called it once Babidi was born because her parent turned about 16, 17 during the go when I think she's ready. Eventually, some people started coming, asking, until one of them really measured up. So Isavie said, fine. They went, as you know. So they visited Isavie, talked about, I don't think I want any dowry. I only want to beating my daughter. And so they go and marriage happened. He beat me and it was obvious. She's look after our daughter, I'm sure. And in our part of Uganda, when they ate, and that mango tree is still, oh, you see, my wife ran away, she paid. Oh, you see, we had an altercation. Are you sure? The father, Mr. Isavie, said, apology, lie down, and I'm going to slash you until I'm done. He beat him so much so that right now you are going to go back alone. You'll be there for 2 days without her, so that you, because in my clan, we are not allowed to be beat family. We are allowed to stay on. When you come for us, after this, there has been a death, our great-grandfather. Now what has changed? When you are going to get married, everybody is told that that is how our clan is handled. You take things for granted. But now that I can sit down and analyze my great-grandfather's story, if Babidi had not gone home and told the parents that Shadation, whose job, which was funded in supported by the World Bank at that time, for the 90% of all there is something as major affected, and it is in the private sector, and that is when that given that our job is to advocate for private sector, that we are here leading. Now that we are all adults and of activism, every radio, every television is the way forward. This momentum could be maintained. 2022, we turned this into 16 million activists in Uganda, and this kind the knife, because it looks like the 16 million the 16 million Ugandans may have to be armed camera, because quite enough you can do. You do not have to be as we can do, and that is the age when something about what is happening. That day I have people working for me. Then this guy was asked why she was. So I let it go. But in the evening I asked him, do you have a problem? He said yes. The woman is sick. Called the woman. So from today, called Omugole, which in English means that. So he laughed. He really had the biggest laugh I've ever seen her. We still refer to her as Omugole, and to tell you the truth, the Omugole loves it. So that did not take away anything at the same time. So for me, one of the biggest issues I've had to confront is people opening up. I'll tell you this story again, even if I told it on Monday, because it was the immediate family was still there. So when the first person I asked looked down and walked away. I asked another one, so very well looked her in the eye and asked her, because she's here. I said, who is she? So I told everybody, whatever you are doing, we are going to sort this. You either walk out with her or you stay with your family, because something else had happened I'm going away for 2 hours. By the time I come back, everything should be sorted and it will be lunchtime. And the real wife I knew. If you don't want to talk about yourself, can we, a time back, I'll not name the corporation now, to have gender violence. The boss apparently used to use bad language, but everybody would just whisper about it. Because Victoria, I'm sure they are telling, like, doing it. Me and Mateba are going to go to report, but we'll be reporting for the public. Of course, I don't have the energy and the time to go to court, but it has since changed. So can it maybe record like those do and what you can do best? Because even if it's intervened, that person was taking you. We are really grateful to our donors, because that is where the action is, and that is where I'm paid for these programs. But I like it. For always, they are exaggerating. But when the people are there, like you all know that advert where this woman says, I threw the stone, dramatic, but it was real, and the woman was real. She was just beating her husband. Now, when and if all, for those of you who come from up country, honestly, if you want the most beautiful girl, and to give birth to those beautiful girls, but the problem is that they don't let them. Some people were violently against it. The better let us continue as individuals, as organizations, as media houses. I thank all our partners, and I wish you good deliberations.
Thank you so much, Honorable Sechitoreko, for those remarks. Agataliko, by the way, for those who don't know, Agataliko starts airing at 10 p.m. Issues. Her story that she relates here, I was listening attentively, and for me it rang a bell. And her call at the end of it, let us all be each other. Allow me at this juncture, take this rare opportunity for a keynote initiative. You're most welcome. A round of applause, ladies.
Yeah, Mama spoke. You are good. Yeah, we all have to pay attention to, and I think that where I was bold enough to call the police and try to get help, and everybody was thinking, why are you spending so much time on this person? And I thought, well, why not? So this is a very important one, and we all have to be each other's keeper. So you have seen for 16th issue of Gender, Labor and Social Development, Miss Nasuna Grace of the European Union delegation, my own very good friend, Honorable Victoria, Mr. Stephen Asim, all the way from Amudat and others, thank you very much. The media fraternity against women and girls, on behalf of the United Nations Development Program, Private Sector Dialogue, and award ceremony, and yesterday I also gave and men who work in what we call the development mineral space, and we also mark the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. European Union to Uganda, a round of applause for them. And Caroline, this is something we've done, has greatly supported efforts to eliminate ministries, departments, and agencies who are Amudat. Through the initiative, support is being provided in the areas of strengthening legislation and policy frameworks, strengthening institutions, facilitating social norm change. I commend the leadership of Honorable Betty Among government agenda in the country. I do partners in the implementation of the EU-UN to adopt practices that are geared towards the elimination of gender inequalities and for organizing this particular private sector dialogue. I also recognize you greetings from her, UN Women, I know our refugee agency, that are jointly implementing the EU-UN Spotlight initiative. We have made great strides together on this initiative, although together we're stakeholders and development practitioners of gender-based violence in societies. Gender-based violence in Uganda remains a critical, and I think Madame Victoria talked about that, psychological as well. And lost labor context. Let me now turn this here. And in doing this, I'll try what the Gender Equality Seal for Private Sector is about, and I'm sure our colleagues here from the private sector will dip in that conversation, and how the Gender Equality Seal, private sector enterprises and government entities, repeats that it makes business sense. Now, whether gender-based violence occurs within the workplace or outside case together, there is significant research that has come recognition of the need for proactive strategies associated with employees' emancipation of women as payors, and acts as the engine of economic growth qualities in workplace. recruitment and professional development opportunities, gender-based pay gaps. In other words, we are all doing the same job, but the man earns more than the woman. At the top tier, there'll be a lot of women in decision-making places in present times. Use of productivity. At this dialogue, we saw participation, contribution, and benefits of the labor force, women and men, with the emphasis on the Gender Equality Seal tool to integrate gender issues. The Gender Equality Seal certificate says, I think there's a bit of noise somewhere there. It's coming from somewhere there. It's an innovative tool for businesses to. In doing so, the private sector fosters equality, sustainable development, contributes to successful attainment of the SDGs sector and UNDP to establish and to level the playing field for both women and work environment and business, including standards enshrined in the Convention on the Limit Convention and the United. Why is the Gender Equality Seal on the board? Let me start with some of our colleagues and friends outside of the Africa region and what we are experiencing, and then I'll come back to the Uganda conflict. From experiences of UNDP supported initiatives, 1,400 companies were saying the following. Greater staff performance company, Bago, reported lower employee rise in sales. In other words, because are rather given as it's also enhanced productivity, eliminate talent. We've also seen evidence 500 companies with the most women company based in Colombia reported increased recognition. Again, a Chilean recruitment of women in non-traditional where gender balanced teams lead to increased operational efficiency, enhanced client engagement and retention. So again, gender-based violence in the workplace and how the Gender Equality Seal can contribute to that effort. So let's turn our attention to home, the Pearl of Africa, Uganda. What is our experience so far in women's empowerment in accordance with international norms enshrined in the Beijing platform in Africa? So in 2016, the Gender Equality Seal certification for private sector companies, the ceremony was witnessed by Honorable Matia Kasaija, the Minister of Finance, becoming the first country in Africa to have its private to that. The first in Africa. And we have 13 companies, a few bank, now breweries, a LAM group of companies, Delight Uganda Limited, Alosha Organic Natural Health Products Limited, NBS Television, Graphic Design Consult Limited, Hostalite Limited, Simba Telecom, and they became the pioneers. And since then, we've had over 90 companies, and the companies that are implementing issues on business operations. And I'm here today, and the Uganda Medical having now subscribed to the seal, and it's gratifying from the private sector some of these positive experiences, and I don't want to go into all the details in the interest of time. We've also seen the score, the business case for as the government's main motivation to why the government is also partnering a comprehensive platform to reduce inequalities, and equality can benefit also private sector developed through the program. Also that we have made with the private sector now, like institutions, so that the seal is not gathered by the participating companies, governments, and affect both men and women. Now, so I played several roles in supporting technical assistance. We have done a lot to push this agenda forward. Now, I want to also be able to put some of this conversation to the perspective around COVID, the impact of COVID, and post-COVID recovery, because we can talk about the seal, we can talk about everything we do differently moving forward. It is important, Uganda's economic update exacerbated gender gaps in paid work in work, made business sense. Lockdown set off a way greater share of unpaid care work for women, women's economic participation, and reversing progress. Further, Uganda society pays costs of providing essential services to victims and severe consequences to survivors, their families, and society at large. Again, we have amounts of resources that we lose per year. So, against this background, the private offers a practical approach for closing on and on. So, there is a lot more that we can do together with structures and policies, and such as a Gender Equality Seal. We need more champions that conclude by saluting the privacy and the Gender Equality Seal to free their business enterprises from gender inequalities in order to attain better productivity and more equitable workplace. Our enterprises from gender inequality, United Nations Sustainable Development Corporation have in place, we would continue to do that. We are optimistic to reach this target and be able to support productivity more companies have in place. We are optimistic, in particular, all the 70 women and girls. So I want to conclude by thanking. We must orange the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Elsie, there for those remarks. It's remarkable. But I think we are past implementation, and we are words are based on certain parameters. We are past implementation, and we are words up to us. Madam Caroline, you're most welcome. Based on certain parameters. We are past implementation.
Good morning, Caroline.
We are past implementation.
Last name, which is perfectly out as good morning, Caroline, to recognizing me. So I'm the head of corporation. I would like to recognize the representative of energy. So I'm the head of corporation with the ministries, representatives of the Private Sector Foundation here in the room. Representatives, of course, of private sector here. Ministries, representatives of quite impressive to see all the companies that are represented here. Private sector here. Ministries, representatives to see all the, my dear friend Elsie, to be here with us today. On the one hand, the fighting violence against women and girls mentioned and explained, so I will not go into that, but the EU has really put a major effort of and an investment of 500 million euros worldwide, actions all over the world, and in your initiative here today links very well with our second important priority, which is our engagement with the private sector, our work on private sector development, business environment, to showcase the work we do on these two. So this is an important event. It's part of the activities to mark the 16 days of activism against a major obstacle to the fulfillment of women's and girls' rights. But I have here a speech prepared, and I came across this statistic which our organization, International Labour Organization, showed that in a lifetime. I thought that this was really a quite striking figure. So it means that private sector organizations will have to, as women are often overrepresented in casual unless private without recourse. So I think this is an important, have to recognize these facts. Something that has been mentioned also by Ms. Angle. We look at, of course, the pain and private sector angle and the productivity violence in the workplace. This agenda can, elements that have been mentioned, I think this is a very interesting angle. Of course, it's a challenge that organizations already combat GBV through action to address the issue head-on, representatives and the government. Indeed, the role of the private sector in combating negative behaviors should be encouraged, tackling gender-based private sector, many informally, and many do with the support of UNDP with the Innovations Challenge Award and respond to gender equality seal certification program. It's a sign of great commitment to I would really like to call on all the businesses present here, but also all the ones looking at us, listening to us online, and the private sector found efforts to end gender-based violence and to promote society. If we want to have last initiatives like this one can really control all the sectors in these efforts. So with this opportunity to address you today.
Head of Cooperation at the EU in Uganda. It's a pleasure on social development to make
Good morning once again. Thank you, Frank. I'm called Susan Mwanga. Mr. Chibenge at this meeting. So I'm going to go session, European Union, Resident Representative, UNDP, Vice Chairperson, Private Sector Foundation, representatives from Ministry of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives, representatives from Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development. That's also a big sector in our business in agriculture. Distinguished guests be here to make remarks. The Spotlight Initiative promised women and girls, including sexual. The program is being implemented in 7 Kasese, Chegegwa, the Private Sector Foundation of Uganda, United Nations Development Program, to implement and girls. This is a big program, as you know, and it has taken on many actors, which is really very important for Private Sector Foundation has also partnered women-led and women-focused mind to secure women's livelihood. Also recognize that is meant to protect and including migrant workers. We know that gender also the performance of including the provision to deal with gender-based violence, including 2016 National Action 21 action on other local governments that have made an effort. We therefore acknowledge the private through the Gender Equality Private Sector Foundation, active and inclusive private sector. Address GBV, and the private sector is a strong government and other partners. A checklist for monitoring compliance to minimum requirements for preventing and responding to gender-based violence. Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development has also been working with Speak Networking digital platform each other and to access both the ministry policies to address gender-based violence to eliminate violence against women and girls. As the Spotlight Initiative has completed its of implementation, the ministry is looking forward to areas that promote peaceful places and communities, workplaces, much as working in our homes, whether to be taken care of, to be able promoting women's empowerment and increasing their access to the gender equality and enhancing the entrepreneurial this program and maybe beyond. Organizing this event and the private companies to address GBV in the workplace. Agencies, especially UNDP, for collaborating with government and the private sector to implement interventions to address gender-based violence. Last but not least, and at this operation, thank you.
Madam Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development, much appreciate you. Ladies and gentlemen, is a panel discussion. This panel discussion is going to be discussing and lead us through this
Thank you, Frank. When I stand, I'm happy to say that we have become more active on this path. 20 years with which we do. Today, we're able to speak about it, we're able to push, and we're able to get into the unspoken. So in a room full of, to see this representation and see that these are early steps to start the long journey to end gender-based violence. So I'm happy to share practices on this stage with a number of and those that have already gone to the not seen before.
Ladies and gentlemen, just to let you know that you've seen the UND, they asked for an excuse because they have.
Thank you, Frank. And effort. The process is one who are so strong on traditional aspects that they do not come out of those values, the thinking that they've been born and bred to live by, who come from diverse cultures, not to give the answers. Yes, education services, about 500 plus staff. Nursery school to have is a feat many don't achieve in a lifetime. Right, Mr. Douglas, everyone wants him at their functions because not only is he well spoken, but he also covers employers and our rights, and he's across Uganda. Welcome, Douglas. Medical concierge group to bring clinics or health centers. They have, I think, and we applaud director at TMC. Invite a lady who her. I was excited dresser in this country. These are students go to study law and other more familiar subjects, and very few think of mining and the mining sector. And I believe do know that they have had fighting for space. And when you see the diamonds in the tiny pendant, or at least to get these stones. Mineral dresser, to invite Mr. Moses Ntenga. Joy for Children to the stage from the very young. Mr. with over 1,000 on all forms of discrimination. So as head gone into implementation of the seal. That there are 6 of us. We have to begin with Dr. Barbara, the Human Rights, Health and Development. Why do you think for business and strategic agenda, providing solutions to prevent and respond?
For that great question. Negative consequences to any business and girls, child, the parents, the staff that you work with, everyone in the community has an impact, a negative impact of this. When your worker does not have dignity them in the night or around them and they are at your place of work, so what you want to, relationships are affected in their homes. And they will start becoming people know. Yet at times even people know over. Immediately they change to another job. And they will keep ever is causing the issue to see that we mitigate. It will really be of us all know that there is a space to them. And while provide one male, one female. So the ones that they can call on. So this space in people coming in. At first with people I don't know. But because what their experience is, now a lot of change. As these children have issues of people want them to play. So that this is something that the children need our private sectors. Opening up all the suspicious and begin working settled. People are now coming is have professionals, have that security. They know my issue and the others will also get to. Environment should be set. No. We are working with about 7 schools. It's happening in our school and asked them to say cancelled. So the community is now of over 10,000 people that are private sector founded. What we are doing and we are seeing results. And I really want to say thank you so much. Whoever is supporting this initiative, you're building a nation.
Summarizing it pretty well. Mutaka, Head of People and Culture, identifiable or detected. Find you have high turnover, and it's from elite. If I can, phenomenon. When we see this manifesting, how do we detect it to you?
First and foremost, it's an honor to be here as an organization. I think that's where it's our community. At Stanbic Bank, we say, with the recent happenings around COVID, we realize that, and the second thing that we realize is that we, as a powerful organization, we cannot and we can be a force for change. It's what our ethics. Those are out there and they are not, like the lady from Victoria has said, at their best because they're inclusive. So, and she sends her apologies. Currently 50-50 male-female, and it was even at some point 60-40 towards female. And I think that then sets the tone around, is this, and once the managers, because I think you can legislate, Madam Victoria said, if the family sees the processes, the systems, and the data that you how we behave here. So categorically, there's no discrimination, right? That's the first one. See, is in the culture and environment. Sexual harassment is not a very well understood how it manifests. How do you respond as the individual or the victim? You may not know that. You feel that when you come in, you are accessed. Or women show up at work. And what we did at the bank was based on women so that they are powerful and they can actually grow, growing up at the top of the organization. And as part of he for she, we then started, as a man, how do I allow me to show up as a good human being, but also champion equality and inclusiveness. And in those barbershop sessions, there's a quote that says, the opposite, Madam Victoria said, most of us just mentor. I won't correct. Empowering the people to sort of say, the process we have is putting in place systems. This data, like you said, is the workplace safe? What are they living from? How many people stay up the data around your culture that you're creating? Creativity. And that's because people watch. Sometimes you neglect that and wonder why people are not curious. They just are evolving quite quickly. To say, this is why we exist. We want inclusion, which is our home. to harm someone. I have to wish them well. I have to grow them up. The tools that you need to finish with that is that it expressly say this is what we want, that they've not necessarily been at in the one of our colleagues a committee this way a scoring law, and in the spirit of but we'd like to say I hope development or transformation.
Thank you. What measures have you undertaken in your company to respond and prevent gender-based violence? And has these actions or decisions are adhered to? I also raise this question with the understanding that many of your clients meet area because you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you so much. I think we've come a long way. We can see that achieve our goals. Certain measures over the last movement is the gender equity committee. So we formed a committee which comprises of 4 males, and really the purpose of this committee was to violence issues. Including having regular meetings and discuss meetings, and then they do quarterly reporting and dissemination of information that is important for different people within the organization to know what is happening in that space, to know what activities they are carrying out, and to dispel silence or 16 days of activism. They did a start a while. They keep coming up with innovation, the workplace, and if the gender equity diagnosis, actual situation at TMCG concerning gender equity. And for us, the findings were quite interesting. Gap analysis, we found out that the women, so which was quite an interesting statements that the company had, we young females. And so this was really good, bearing fruit. But it doesn't mean that we're going to just and protocols that we have put in place around sexual violence or to be, reportable, put across the office of different action placards to update them and make sure that we keep abreast with any new developments. We also did a staff survey, and of the staff, 94.9% agreed that men and women have equal opportunities, and which we have identified, and we are taking up to see how we can improve. And over the last 2-3 years, where we messaging members of the pub, those who wanted to talk or to get more information. And through this project, we were also able to spread quite some what issues are reportable on this topic. We are also continuing to support the social behavioral change activity by USAID project to this and YouTube, and even through and the areas where people would like, but we feel that there is still opening up avenues for information more we break the walls. And I do our purpose. Thank you.
I believe you are speaking about and the required. It's that we have a use a survey and tell them it takes of the organization. So, and it's a push-pull factor, and that's where I come to. There are many issues in the work of culture spaces. Some issues, this kind of person, and in the office, and I have seen you advocate for prevention and response to gender-based violence and existent.
Angela. The narrative has been, but that narrative is changing. Look at health, I can see graphic systems, them all. But that's not something, so I see that change quite good framework. The Ministry of clearly Article 7 of our Employment Act, and then also gives the other prescriptions of what is needed framework. And that Employment Act of 2000, so we have a sexual harassment is good. Thirdly, the gender seal, for instance, even more companies here. We also have the women empowerment principles, and many companies have also signed up to that. So we appreciate working a little bit more now. Maybe because of COVID, we woke up a bit more, to activate our systems within the organizations, but it afraid of committing violence in laugh it off. Somebody would, but we are more aware now because we have those policies, we have disciplinary committees. You know, if you did it, you'd be taken for disciplinary action. The light is the issue of companies taking from a company to pay for a training to train their staff about issues of gender-based violence. But we have seen it at least in the past 3 or so that they can address it in us a lot more. Maybe because of the number of areas, so they want to manage them better. Required of employees clauses related to gender-based violence. It was collective bargaining agreements are just documents which are negotiated between employees and the employer. And these unions at a company level, but it can also be in the flower sector, negotiate. Increasingly, they're addressing the issue of Now, we have room for improvement. Still has gaps and gaps within the law. The first gap that harassment policy and create a committee where we are in an economy where majority places are not by everybody, whether you employ only 2 or 3, that's critical. And then the construction within the law, when you look at Section 7 of the Employment Act, it's mostly looking at could come from a colleague. So the law place, not just the employer or the employer, if you committed an action of gender employees. So there are things we need to address within the law. And then, secondly, the other thing that I want to point out, you have been doing an extensive where we need to do more capture. So that creates a problem. We are made to do it maybe now 2017, 2018, to inform practice, to inform past. I've experienced it. You're already speaking about education in the area of data, because that surveys actually make our lives a lot better. So the question of data. And then lastly, I speak to what there's still a challenge there. But privately, you then get to hear gender-based violence that go unreported talk. And that, so much, Angela, for giving me.
You hand over the mic, Douglas.
Thank you.
I
was in a hurry to dodge your question.
No, you're not dodging my questions. Because you see, we have quite a number of issues still. One, we are raised in a and all these impact on the place. But it comes from men sat closer to the door. And where it's not only in the boardroom, it's also, don't say anything, that the eyes turn generation that has learned how to say, they expect you to comply. We also have the issues of family, the caregivers, and we also have women who don't return because their positions or opportunities for birth. And yet we know the caregiving role. Give me in summary what you feel.
Thank you so much, Angela. It's quite loaded actually with many things. Now, just to try to respond acceptable behavior. What is professional conduct? So that employee code of conduct, and now in the workplace. But without that, but as you have had, be able to do that. And then, secondly, when you have your meeting in most workplaces, quite often the leadership is disengaged. It's even more serious now because of COVID-19. For the leadership to set the tone as an example for what is not acceptable. To positions, but challenges. I think has a lot to do with the level of awareness, the extent to which we can claim our rights. Generations indirectly, they didn't have as much information, access to information. Even just do a training, they will go back and do many things. That means we have to have targeted information with the older generation so that they can be aligned. They can appreciate, I like our chair from the generation, but quite vibrant in the way all older people just accept things, issues. Now, lastly, the issue
paternity leave.
And paternity leave. Paternity leave, people think it doesn't exist. I hope we know the difference. Some occupations, some people work from Sunday of rest each week. but majority of us work paternity leave and issues of paternity leave. I think it's also partly an issue of ignorance, but also, again, I get back to the report are there. Yeah, they already exist. It's difficult for them. Law still up to now, you can't imagine. I've hired you, and that unemployment contract should be relief, because it's not awareness gap, but also the remember. Because we don't condone get away with it for a few years, problems can pile up, but eventually become such.
So over to the are listening, noting that areas we can work in, the field that we need more war or challenge we are having, and women and men finding balance in narrative. It's for many centuries and violence. We do have boys who are the discussion on. So Naomi, for addressing gender-based violence in the
Angela, maybe for the sake of the violence, it's something that has not been known, because that one we can easily relate with, since it has been here for ages. So they are not really producing loads. At those people you've basically with a hammer, they're using holes. Basically, they're using random miners. I hope it's quite clear now to the audience. Yes, and these are really everywhere. Every route you take, whichever day. And I must add that the women are my sector. They're really quite many. So of the social norms, yeah, it's society deemed women, I need to put it in quotes, as unproductive society. So there's nothing they're bringing at the table. So it's they really become so vulnerable communities in which we are having these many of them, and in these societies really unproductive. The overall right, she cannot make any decision. So why we are looking at empowering, and then they have this huge that the homes are taken good care of. I might ask the woman, if the children are they're not considered to be secured, they have a sustainable yes. So when we deal with place to have or build their confidence, they'll be able to defend themselves. It's a discrimination in the pay, because they're the middlemen. So you'll find that mainly the women are doing the crushing, which is really labor intensive, and then they are paid peanuts. Now, the woman to have her stones, because maybe she has collected these stones for hospital bills, the cloth, for me to sell your stones, or for me they become vulnerable. But imagine if we empower them to refuse any, together with our partners, UNDP, to see that.
Thank you. I realized a lot of deaths that come from mining that occurs also in conducive environment doing. We know that and we know that the ones at the bottom and Ugandans in that industry, but that vulnerability in our development.
Thank you, Angela. A couple of weeks ago, we had the first reading of our new bill, putting across policies, changing the policies that can empower, that can support, that can protect women. Mostly women were not allowed to do some tasks. In my looking at protecting the women in these works, women, are brought on board, and most of which are here in the room to see. You talked about the beautiful stone, for aggregates. But, the ministry going out, they didn't use it for aggregates, and used it for maybe tile. Training them, in their critical down there, their productivity, and hence their that we've trained. There are several of them. Besides aggregates, they can now make the concrete blocks using the dust that they were, trashing. They didn't know that it was valuable. Alternative livelihoods, because this is ones can exhaust, and they are not really of the target districts under spotlight. They've been trained in tailoring livelihood, an alternative livelihood been given. We're still this afternoon. When I look over there, those are some of the equipment that we are going to give some of these women-led groups to ensure that they are mining safely.
Are now alternatives. GBV is a human. So we want to share with you, we want you to share with us your experiences working with the miners, and how the Spotlight Initiative program you have regarding those socially.
Thank you very much. It's a very important topic to our work. I work with and there is a very close link, or inclined to women, to be in the public spheres has spanned around preventing violence and energy, and we have done businesses actually and companies to respond to issues of gender-based violence and protect women and girls. And in Kitgum specifically, where we're working, in the rural communities have just recovered from, and these are the things that I believe we that of the laws, because it is more, and they still live in, maybe could be because of lack of knowledge, because that was in Kitgum, was based on an economic lens, that if we empowered the least and also address issues of gender-based violence. And our focus in those areas, we are looking at enhancing mechanisms. Can we have mechanisms in place to mitigate the risk? But also we are looking at strengthening and facilitating women to access economic and livelihood support so that those can directly communities. And also the last one, we're looking at strengthening either the private sector, within the government and different things. And I'm very privileged that, but also I've worked with the Ministry of Trade to be able to link GBV. And so construction. And these are not rocks that are above the surface, but these are rocks that are underneath. And they dig tunnels and trenches and use hammers and small tools and the carpets. There are some carpets that they use to break some of those. The small lorry, I think you can take them up to 2 weeks. So it's quite sunshine and village. They're deep in the bush. They are way far from the community, and they're deep in the bush. And where you'd think that because they're isolated, and both men are women that are working in those, the mechanism to respond was that when there is an issue, then there are people who are over addressing the issues of GBV. So men of about 9 people that sit to structures and also the district to be groups for women, and will later that can work together to raise and improve their income. And one of the challenges that have been there, like Norma has mentioned, that some of these women don't have a bargaining power when it comes to selling. Husbands later, they say you have to, we are the one income. If a man takes it, how they're supporting the children or the family. Either men, issues of polygamy. And one of them were very strong sections there that with. And one of the things that where they're working and they're able to control, happy that they support coming to these women and they give women information, even for the are discouraged and also reported. If it also within the government structures, because of lack of funds, I think something that we need also to very much focus on. Girls, I think, has also been a little bit very on creating that space. Have women and men that have been able to mobilize themselves $1 million shillings to be able to, as a boost, as also exciting, and women are gaining power. We've been able to BV, but also we have worked in the mining sector. Where do you go? Have a legal debt and have, and we really believe that within that, being able to be handled and completed.
Thank you, Moses. I think we need to give them a bigger hand clap. I gave them 5 minutes. So well done. And the 10th December is the November. What is your key and final message regards to ending?
Thank you very much, Angela, and all the activists in here. It's also a privilege for me to be on the panel, and I think just listening to Moses, Naomi, Barbara, and I think it's more that we talked about public support on initiatives we didn't know about. I mean, you don't think about such things. It's really, really something that has fascinated me. So, and maybe the last one for ourselves as we continuously improve with the gender equality seal is to say how dangerous.
Very much. For me, I think one of my creating a space. People don't have a space where to go in case of unable to support, and also as an institution you may not be able to detect. But also we need also to have among men. It is a tall order. It is really a tall doing the within the companies among men. I think they will think it's a waste of time. So we'll have that one a couple months. So I think there's need girls. Then they can easily understand.
2 questions. Our program has given to two questions.
First of all, I would like to thank you for all the discussion. Keep opening up more avenues to talk about this initiative. We as individuals are all responsible, and we need to respond. Thank you.
The responsibility of GBV is my responsibility. It is your responsibility. Let's not turn around coming up and at the end of that our nation. Thank you.
For me, So I will not try to check your responsibility. One of us here to do your part, appreciating it. If you to the attention of your management, engage. So for me, thank you.
And Naomi?
Is one of the drivers of economy, the violence, the sexual violence, or everywhere, where of us here in the room, whichever, but let's come together and try to vision, the 2040 vision arrived at as soon as possible. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. And now I think we all love the Hajati. And then I'll have the gentleman over there for the second question. Oh, there are four. It's 12:10. So we're going to do...
Thank you. Hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry. My question, before I do ask the that side, and say, we formed women in insurance, you as women in insurance in Uganda. When we call ourselves, question is to the gentleman from the on sexual harassment. With officers across, you are able to do this effectively. Thank you.
Let's take other questions as well.
Zara, I work for Women and Girl Child Development so much. You are first of all start private sector, not to leave gender-based violence as for civil society, but making it public beyond private. I don't think we need to be talking about, I have worked with different organizations, you as a man, not coming as your office, Douglas, the first question, but if they openly ask to go back, if we really want to see gender-based violence, my biggest question, Moses, and then I want to take it back to my brother, we don't have a bank for women, giving the loans to women so that you can be able, I am a microfinance, but the biggest problem, my brother, is the who are secured own collateral, private sector being this is talking about. Lastly, my sister, we launched a campaign of sector. I request you that when you move around and pull out those women in the markets and those who are trying.
Thank you. From there, if the mic can be.
Thank you very much. My name is Employment Sexual Harassment Regulations 2 and cases of violence and harassment in the statistics is a very big problem. Consent, there are issues of unfair termination, and this matter we are dealing with has a lot of, it is a double-edged matter. Thank you very much.
A question from this table and then we...
Thank you so much, Madam. My question is issue of agricultural GBV. Women are suffering. Why that the whole family is participating and it is only the man production in agriculture. And for us as king of, and I wanted private sector, we can also table it before the public. But it's very important for us to look at that. The issue of role of men, but men are the perpetrators of our fellow men, so that we take a lead in this for it. We need to be there, but we preserve another one.
Very impressive in terms of gender equality, but also more information from the medical measures in place, because it has worked. I think the information that for other business enterprises.
Thank you. So we come to the panel. I am
the panelists. Thank you for all that. To reframe the perpetrators, so they will fear and as like a police be part of. Let's be exemplary. Let's have. I might be taken to. I might be persecuted and all that. Let it go beyond that. Thank you very much. And then to our sister who is strategy. Are these women going to be in those mines? You are introducing other activities because looking at the risk livelihood, that is maybe it's an inclusive.
So that closes the questions.
Just one. Actually, we are going to harmonize the way of speaking the same language. So we are really on that.
Thank you.
Begin. Big Bank, we're in a privileged position to have the resource. So we do have, and everyone then does the learning for conversations, reflective conversations on, again, things like Zoom or Teams, which has allowed us to scale the whole geographical piece. And at the end of the day, we must have 100% compliance from everyone. But what I sense done enough. And not try to do it ourselves, but try and say, how can we use our resources?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Start out that way, but we have made these GBV issues used to be having a gender equality committee, which that has really helped to the committee. But also, I think what has been helpful and will continue to be helpful is the staff surveys. She was mentioning how difficult it is to get staff between the ages of 24 to 30. They can respond to on the phone or respond. So active, and we make sure that after those surveys, the information that we collect, that action is taken on the feedbacks, which we have used for the general having, and they can receive advice. One is aware of how we make policy of where everyone knows. Thank you.
Thank you. So I think the other question.
Comments, I like the passion with which the issue is a method. You can't systematically do a commitment. This commitment is translated, oversight comes in. Then a committee is created, committee is in place, you can take place. And then you can do the modern way of dealing with the problem, people can run it. And then last, WEPs and gender seal is really, and if they're brought under one roof.
Act to our officers, let's give them a big hand thing when we call upon them and for being this as we go.
Wow, I thought that was a brilliant presentation there. Maybe they deserve. If you look, then know the magnitude of what word. You had the CEO, and they are discussing these real issues. It means the discussion about GBV at the workplace is now in the boardrooms. Many of you will attest till it gets to be DOs, directors discussing these issues. I would also like to thank very much the discussion in the right direction. A round of applause. Allow me to recognize the Nasima who joined us during the progress of, or you may not have gotten the memo. It's not even, I think, 2 weeks or 2 weeks today. Thank you so much. So we'd like to congratulate you on the appointment and welcome you. What we're going to do next is the awards. We have spoken, we have churned out the keys, those that have been exemplary. And to make a presentation or to give us a prayer is our moderator brief on this innovation, the Honorable Sechitoloko, together with the UNDP representative NAD for this afternoon.
Again, ladies and gentlemen, this is culminating or has by UNDP, by EU and against gender-based violence and violence against from partners from all sectors. Panelists had talked about it. However, inherently within society, norms, things that private sector is vibrant, we have our women and men to come up in the sector lives. We have been the private sector, there is a significant degree of economy, and there's a study that shows that Uganda 77.5 billion towards reduced gender-based of development partners and local partners as well, which was initiated in 2019 with UNDP. Promising innovations at supporting pile-up mechanisms. We are not leaving this work to their full understanding that if the private looking for. So the challenge prizes that submitted because you don't know where it will get you. And the level of influence was amazing. On 13th April, Amudat, Arua, when we hear news that in the first lockdown, here that Tororo is leading in teenage between the first lockdown to date, leads to the other, if the lady follows. So and we are here to fight it with 6 winners who are going to be awarded and were winners. Work with them in future to see how we could. A vice chairperson of the private sector fund, an activist for so many things. I'd also like to as well as we go ahead, announce the winners from UNDP. And
thank you. I'd like to congratulate the winners to put a way in which we can continue and to promote gender equality. Some of those companies that are doing well, because we know that these who are doing well will be able to. We congratulate you, and we would that you have put in place so that the other that. Thank you so much. Yes, please.
I have already spoken before, but of course it's short because I want you to remember it. No. PSFU has gone digital. Do apply because you could stand a chance to few. It is normally life membership. Who doesn't want that? Congratulations, the winners. Over to you, Angela.
Thank you. If you can, they will receive a prize of promising interventions in 10 award is, and the title of their innovation, digital media and online space. We hope that the method, thank you, Fireworks. Investments Limited, best in fighting gender-based violence. Amangre Ochanda is here to receive the award. Welcome. The next, and the title of their innovation district. Congratulations. It was observed that there is a lot of gender-based violence. It is starting with Kasese. We appreciate the effort you're putting into this work. Best in Kampala, Victor Men and Men. They have tried to keep teachers being at home and some bringing up issues of gender-based violence. And I thank you, Dr. Barbara Buyondo, for taking. They are going to establish a counseling and improve productivity levels. Consultancy Limited, solutions to address gender-based violence and promote Kitgum. Yes, thank you. The final award goes, the title of their innovation is Sexually Exploited and take your seat. So, under the Spotlight Innovation Challenge Award, we had so many other companies, but in 2019, the data that's coming out from what are also going to get onto this journey and present the findings from this project, and therefore for account to you that all the work we are doing will be impact. On that note, I want to thank the program. As you go home, please remember. Thank you and God bless.
Thank you so much, Angela. There gives you 52 million shillings just like that. Look forward to seeing the impact like Angela. Actually, we've just started with the awards, including helmets and a couple of stuff there. And they are called personal protective equipment. Funds here in recognition of what PP is Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development.
Next segment, and PPEs, where they go. I'll start by we've been working together with different implementers, interventions. These businesses thrive so that the ladies are sustainable districts, the target districts, Note and Toro districts. In all these districts, these groups are not only in the previous session talked about. Remember in AMDAT, that's where we have the men to come out as ambassadors to stop such issues and violence against women in that region, and it's actually rolling out to other regions. We, of course, to identify the women, and of course, we identified these, and so far now, initiative, I know we shall reach more in this. We are working together with Ministry of Trade in Projector. Maybe I would ask you to want the people to have a feel of what imperative. One of the things that we are looking at the mining activity, so we are focusing on formalizing this on board, so that that are legal entities, so that in the near future, income, because no one can several engagements. As I'm speaking, I'm hoping the presentation is going to be shorter. So we have had several trainings of these women mining groups. Together with implementers, we have Private Sector Foundation Uganda, we have COSMES, we have Joy for Children, and they are all in the 4 groups. So up there you see that the mentioned earlier that they were given startup, graduated through some of these other skills, confidence in their society. This happened in Kasese and Tororo. We have also several engagements that have happened. Like I've mentioned, the trainings are wide, safety and environment. Remember the environment to do any accountability, so they destroy the environment and it can be a disaster. So they have been trained on different aspects in mining, as well as issues of gender-based violence that could arise in their workplace. We have also AMDAT. I mentioned AMDAT. Next slide, please. A district that is scaling. What we are focusing on is to ensure to do account, books of accounts in that sector. And also, of course, we've had the ministry having engagements, teaching them and empowering them about they were really destroying a precious stone just for about the law, the policies, the regulations, and then also the minerals that are within their region, so that they can take advantage of these. We're able to get an engagement with the hands. So you'll find that they have injuries, the dust they're inhaling in. Over a couple of years, they'll have issues with their beautiful development partner. I need to tell you how many, because every group is going to benefit. We're able to get 1,000 reflector jackets for all. We have the hard hats, from AMDAT to come and showcase hard hats to prevent any, to make sure that the ground hands and fingers, in case of that keep falling off. So if it caught your eye, it would be to avoid the inhalation of the dust, which is not visible with the eye, but yes, the dust masks. And then we have the gum. These quarries are quite far off, yes. They are quite far off from the communities, so they have to go through the bush to excavate out the sand, so they need not really so effective reduction. So the 95 groups, the women in those groups and the men that are working with the women to support them in the, that are implementing this to reach the women miners.
What's her name again? People.
Maja Women and Blood Organization, small scale miners, as Naomi said, the district, and trained the women in the 3 sub-counties, and we are also we are registering them as women and enterprise skills. Value groups, most of them didn't know even about saving. They could all know AMUDAT really is certain. Sometimes it's really as the mother is all like dependent in every community in AMUDAT really are not mostly in the fields taking care of animals, like looking for most of the women. We have a case study of a woman whom the husband didn't want. So we train these women, not the men that we now call the real men. In most influencers, as earlier they stated that what we oriented them on GBV prevention, on the law, following those practices. So we brought also the elders of our time on board, and they are now the ones helping us, even being the gate of the community. They are the ones help the court community. So I appreciate so much to them to the field. The photo is so there. Hammers. They will really appreciate for this. And
Betty, I can't thank you more. You've done a brilliant job. That's a strong testimony. Unrehearsed, random, to invite Avian Mines to come and do the honor. Naomi,
David, kindly move to the show, please, and you help us with those boxes. And a symbolic item of each. So every district is going to be receiving on behalf of the women miners. So I'm going to be calling out a district at a touch with AMDAT. Let's have the KAO, the implementing partner, to receive. This is symbolic and women groups. Thank you so much. Intervention that we are coming up with is really taken on and not to end with the project, but sustainable so that it's. We'll have Kit Gum Ibrahim representing the district. Boat has a pair of the goggles. They are all safety. Thank you, Smith. Thank you so much for the training. Thank you, Delo, so much. Tororo, the representative, we're going to help the women to improve Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development, the women mining groups, and of course.
Just before you go, Edie and stay here as the recipients.
On our first day. Now their minds are reeling. How are we going to get it? I want to have another category that is still land the gender equality seal. Our first award but we want to congratulate them for having undertaken this journey, and we want them to continue being the ambassadors. Second award. Congratulations for being private sector. You keep the voice. And we want to in their business and ensuring that this good practice is consistent year in, year out. So congratulations on achieving. And the last one goes to, are they in the room? We will ensure they would thank, as I leave the podium, Private Sector Foundation, Stephen Asimwe. I'd like to thank the Commissioner from the Mining Ministry, and I would like to turn the spotlight. Annette, a lot of these initiatives, and she stands here, and we are proud to say, we are proud to be with her. But she doesn't work alone. She knows if Nicholas is around. Fantastic, and whenever we call upon them, they us in private sector.
So that session, you say the online classes. Now, ladies and gentlemen, up to now, allow me, in a privilege, to make closing remarks. Mr. Asima, please. A round of applause, members.
Good afternoon, everybody. My chair of this whole program, Madam Paul, EU, and your representatives to trade, other advisory members of the PSFU, Madam Angela again, representing MSME, representatives of artisanal mining gentlemen, a very big thank you. But I won't forget, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year in advance. Just for purposes of conjecture, shillings, and in my head I was calculating what money is for you, the landscape in our country, the equipment. A big hand of applause to them. Conjecture, I had things like, if there's something I picked here is to be a real man. I'm going to go back in my mirror and see whether or not I miss and be born again. Of equality, I want to thank the organizers in a very special way about the inclusiveness of this, of the awards especially, and the spread of this impact. You noticed they gave awards to Arua, which is northwest of Uganda, Tororo, and in Buganda we say Mwebale Nyo. I had a long speech. I'm going to cut it because 90% say this is a very important day. I think we'll be seeing more of these comments and violence against women and girls around the world, of which Uganda is participating. On behalf of this November 25th, and we appreciate the time and energy and every schedule you have put in this exercise. So another COVID-19 pandemic continues to negatively impact our adolescents with escalating rate of teenage pregnancy and child marriage. You'll also realize that of not just an ladies and gentlemen to thank in a very special, and I will enumerate them here. You can be more Ugandan and the UN. Thank you. And this has helped us to address the need to be underlined, ladies and gentlemen. Number one, this whole exercise has been brought about by to sensitize in eliminating gender-based violence in the workplace. Allow me to put a footnote there. At the PSFU, which is the apex body, that's why PSFU has our responsibility is towards our private sector. To showcase material support in the workplace. We can't underscore Karamoja. I used to work with places in Karamoja conditions. We are in hot 12 p.m. midday using stones. No food, no lunch, nothing. It's a very, very late, this kind of equipment. In my view, they deserve very, very serious accolades. So let's clap for them. 3, and most importantly, Ray talked about it, but everything starts and ends on women and girls, as well as on the broader, and I think Madam Angela underscored it. We grow in these conditions, and I think as we go away from here, let's start the awareness from our own places of action in the fight to eradicate GBV and score our role and importance. Some people wonder why the PSFU is actively engaged in safeguarding gender-based violence and violence against women. And it is our responsibility, and we're expected to carry on the legacy of managing businesses, being employees, customers, and here we're talking about play carried on in walls. But we see cascades beyond the 4 walls. Getting to the close of gender-based violence, specifically, we have developed a curriculum to ensure that people respond to gender-based violence, and we brought out materials that specifically put out the laws, a cohort of trainers detecting and responding to gender-based violence and violence against women and girls. Now, just for purposes of perspective, the country SMEs, and for us that this message goes across, and it's work Equality Seal Certification Program and Empowerment. The majority of these companies have very prestigious seal and skills to their members on integrating mechanism to prevent, detect, and respond to GBV and violence against women. SMEs in target districts, the ones that have been mentioned, Arua, Amudat, Kasese, Kampala, Chegegwa, Kitgum, and Tororo. Number 6, in Kolan, a tremendous and incredible financial and business management training through the Innovation Challenge and respond to gender-based violence. I think you've seen the check. There are those in nursery, there's Katandi Kabutandi. Even when the movie has ended and they are saying the end, the actors, the whoever, they can think. For those of you who are thinking I'm speaking in time, I'm closing the very, very last now. 22 and beyond to address the equality seal in the private every business. That is our mission. Target districts. 3, to women and girls in these places. Enhancing access to technologies and or responding to this challenge. Can I ask members of private sector foundation, our secretariats, our partners, our members, please stand up. We want to recognize you in a very special way. To the front, a lot of, I know we've run out of 52 million. So Francis has been the engine behind this. You may be seated. Again, recognition, our board, which is represented very, very strong and energetic. Yeah. Oh, come on, panelists, the people who were seated here, fantastic. Big hand over. Okay, UNDP, energy, a very big body. Have I left out anybody? I think everybody see. So I wish all of you a fantastic lunch.
The ED.
Online participants, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for those recognitions. just to let you know that we have a photo put in. I would like to thank you so much for turning up for ensuring that you run garden tent. You will see it. It's white. Stairs. Then return to the tent for lunch. So let's go for the. This is the photo.